Is this line secure? Are we being monitored? No? Good. All right then, I've got what you're looking for. But it won't be easy to access it. We're talking top encryption stuff here. This is military grade. I don't know what you're getting into, and I don't want to know either. Just take it and leave. All right, I've downloaded it into your datapad. Hello and welcome to another episode of How to Be a Great GM. Now, one of the questions that have come through from you guys is to look at the setting of Cyberpunk. Now, Cyberpunk is a very interesting little niche space within science fiction because it primarily deals with a space where humans have evolved into this strange kind of feudal system of different layers, and everybody is trying to crawl their way out of this kind of technological slum area that they're in to these vaulted high-level areas of pristine technology, pristine health, and wondrous lifestyle. So, when we look at the setting of Cyberpunk, now, Cyberpunk, of course, has got very many different definitions of it, but primarily they are focused around a few core areas. Let's look at the expectations. What are the expectations when we're talking Cyberpunk? When we're talking Cyberpunk, we expect some kind of computer-based world where there's lots of technology everywhere and it does all kinds of things from communication devices to scanners to AI, artificial intelligences running around, androids perhaps. But the critical thing is, although we've got this really advanced technology, society has collapsed into, as I said before, this dichotomy of slum world, lower class, middle class, struggling to survive from day to day. Even though they have this amazing technology, they've got no ways of using it beyond survival. And of course, this upper class society who doesn't even know the lower classes exist. They live in these high towers where technology is almost like magic. As they ask for something, so it is delivered by AI or by computer or whatever the technology might be that you're using in your campaign. So that's part of what we expect. We expect lots of communications in maybe different ways. We've already got touch pads, data pads, communications that are almost hidden so that they almost seem magical. What's next? Touching glass, any surface suddenly becoming activated and used as an interface for a personal computer. We're expecting devices that allow us to do stuff. We're also expecting to see a lot of technology that's perhaps been discarded or is perhaps 20 years out of date, but that's been repurposed for something. Because although this is in the near future, it's very seldom that it's in the far future that Cyberpunk is set, but although it's in the near future, it's the near future where we have 50 years worth of development and technology, and most of it hasn't filtered down to the people on the street. They're still running along with archaic stuff, which is generally clunkier or a little bit more complicated or a little bit more binary if we look at it from that sense of the term, especially with Cyberpunk. We're expecting to see a very specific kind of style as well. Cyberpunk is really about mystery solving, trying to overcome the idea that there is this greater corporation, this greater world which is better than what we have. It's about trying to transcend from a point where we're just surviving and we're struggling to survive and we're in a very dark environment to a place where we're all equal and we're all free. A lot of Cyberpunk focuses around trying to leave this planet which has devolved into this hellhole and discover this utopia where we go back to living in nature and that kind of thing. So that's what we're kind of expecting. What we're not expecting, and I think this is the difference with Cyberpunk versus, say, a space setting, we're not expecting aliens and we're not expecting space travel. If it does happen, that's not a problem, but it shouldn't be anywhere near the focus of your game, otherwise you're really just playing a science fiction setting. So Cyberpunk is more around the technology that's allowed us to advance and then has kind of trapped us in this space. We're talking lots of hacking, lots of computer use. We're expecting that. We're not expecting aliens, and if there are aliens in your world, then they're just as much lower class trash as most of the inhabitants of the world will be as well. What are the possible plots that suggest themselves in Cyberpunk? Well, Cyberpunk really is around these plots. That's really what differentiates the setting. It's around mysteries. There's a missing file in this index of files. Why is that file missing? We need to track it down. Follow the white rabbit. So the plots that jump out for Cyberpunk are generally plots of corporation versus general public, of an organization versus our little band of people, because they've discovered something that they shouldn't. They've discovered some kind of technology which has been hidden from the general public, or it's just good old-fashioned murder mysteries. Someone's been murdered for no apparent reason, and the heroes just happen to be the ones who can solve it. There's also quite a lot of territorialism that happens within Cyberpunk. There's this clan of hackers who are against that clan. There's this drug dealing group who are against that drug dealing group. There are the techno drug dealers who deal psychological drugs that are based on a binary algorithm, or whatever the case might be. But we get this very dark, dingy world. So the plots are around all those kind of things. There's a data transfer that needs to happen, but no one must know about it. Pick up the chip from this dealer, drop it off with that broker. Fence this information with that information. Don't let them find out. Those are the kind of plots that really spring to mind. Then if we look at the tone of the setting, the tone of Cyberpunk is almost invariably always raining, dark nighttime with harsh neon light, which acts as an absolute juxtaposition to the general feeling of depression and of decay and of basically a sinking into a sewer-like existence. We have these massive skyscrapers, we have this information highway that's everywhere and everyone can access the net, but it's got dark corners in it, and those dark corners have really taken over the space that we're in. People are grumpy, they're angry, they're surly, they're miserable. What little moments of joy they can catch are snatched away as the little droids fly past that are scanning for illegal drugs or for contraband, or the corporation who fires 10,000 people because they no longer need to mass manufacture data pads because now everyone's having it digitally inserted under their skin, which is in actual fact some ploy to control the population. The tone is of a concrete jungle in which our heroes are at the very bottom of the food chain along with the rest of the scum. Most people keep to themselves, they go about their daily business, and that's it. And why is it always raining? I don't know. But if you look at a lot of the visual interpretation of Cyberpunk, rain and darkness seems to be the pervading feeling that we get, which means that's what our players are going to be expecting as well. We also need to look at the opposite, the other side of it, the glamorous white world where the inhabitants don't know what's happening 10,000 meters below them in the always raining, always dark undercity, where all those criminals and hackers and biohackers and droid lovers and things stay. Up here in the White Tower, we have everything we could possibly need. But when someone starts to discover there are codes behind the White Tower that keep those people protected, well, there's a chink and it starts to lead to the criminal underworld and, of course, the galactic corporation of ultimate power that's ruling everything. So there's a lot to think about when you're thinking about Cyberpunk, but what you don't want to do is don't alienate your players who are not computer fanatics. This is not about dumping down hexadecimal code translations onto them and going, here, solve that, you 8 decimal place calculating people. No, that's not what the point of Cyberpunk is. The point of Cyberpunk is creating this world where we look for a moment at what could happen to our very own world if we continue in the path that we currently are treading. At least so say a lot of the sci-fi writers who write Cyberpunk. If you look at references, a few references off of the top of my head, one that's a very good, and these are film references. I haven't read any cyberpunk literature, to be absolutely honest. Gasp, shock, horror, I know. Stranger Days with Ralph Fiennes is a fantastic example of this very early stages cyberpunk, where people have got these neural interfaces that allow them to see others' dreams. We're getting there with virtual reality faster than you can think. Then, of course, there's the Blade Runner, the pinnacle of cyberpunk. We've got things like The Expanse, which, although is sci-fi, we haven't seen any aliens yet, or at least not in season 1 to my knowledge. It's all about humans and the world that these humans live in. Judge Dredd is another example of this very harsh world, although these are not examples of hacking kind of films, and there are plenty of them out there as well. The Matrix is another example of cyberpunk, believe it or not. Even though it is this weird space, it's still this dark world, and if you look at when Neo wakes up, it's this grey, stormy environment. Go figure. So cyberpunk is a really interesting place to play in, as long as you don't make it too computer orientated. Focus on those mysteries, focus on following the trail from one place to another place, focus on lifting the characters out of the mud into this white world, from the white world back down into the dark swamps, the sewers of humanity. I hope this has been helpful in some small way on how to roleplay in the setting of cyberpunk. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave your comments below, and keep sending in questions. We've got lots to get through, which is fantastic. If you have any other thoughts on cyberpunk or on literature that we could look at that would help us, let us know. Sharing is caring, or some such nonsense like that. Until next time, happy gaming.